Before we begin this episode, I wanted to be sure you knew about a unique opportunity to learn with me in person this year. The Victoria Stilwell Academy's dog trainer course in-person track for 2025 is enrolling right now through March the 12th. Learn more by visiting vsdogtrainingacademy.com. You can enroll in free starter courses, the fully refundable fundamentals course, the flagship online dog trainer course, and, until mid-March, this year's class of VSA in-person students. Learn more and find out if the in-person track is right for you at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. Again, that's vsdogtrainingacademy.com. We'll see you there. If you live in the UK and you love dogs, then you are going to love my next guest. There is an amazing show on Channel 4 called The Dog House. And if you haven't seen it, well, then you've been living under a rock, because it is casting for its 8th season or its 8th series. Now, this is not normal in TV land. This is extraordinary in TV land. If you have a television series, it might go for a second series or a third, or sometimes, if you're lucky, a fourth. But this is casting for its 8th series. And the reason why this is so incredible is because it is showing dogs being adopted. That the premise is so simple, and yet it's so beautiful. It's like a dating show, but it's a dating show matching dogs with families. And it shows the power of rescue, the power of adoption. And my next guest, Sue Ketland, is the behavior and training specialist at Woodgreen, the pets charity, where the series is based. Sue, welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you're here. I cannot believe that it's casting for the 8th season. This is amazing. You have been at Woodgreen, as I understand it, for 35 years.
Yeah.
And you are now a household name, Sue, because everybody who loves dogs and who loves this show knows who you are. So welcome to the podcast. I am so proud to have you on. And I'm really excited, to learn about your journey, but also about how things are done at Woodgreen, and also what it's like doing a television show.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invite. It's absolutely great to be here. And with regards to the success of the show, then yeah, it is fantastic, but it does also mean I have to be on my best behavior wherever I go, because going to the supermarket, going to the football, going anywhere, it is very common for people to stare at me and just say, "Where do I know you from?" Or "I recognize you." My standard reply is now, "Do you like dogs?" And then they go, "Oh, you're off the telly."
Sue, I say exactly the same thing. People look at me and they go, and they and then they point, and then they say, "Dog lady," and I go, "Hmm." And if they don't, I go, "Do you like dogs?" It's the same thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
crazy!
What was that like for you, too? Because you've been at Woodgreen for 35 years, and you, in that time, I'm sure, have helped thousands and thousands of dogs get adopted. But what was it like for you to suddenly to do this show and now become so well known for the work that you do?
It was pride that people were watching the show and love the show, because everybody says how much they love the show, and, "Oh, you make me cry every week," that sort of thing. So it was pride. And then it was sort of like almost a bit embarrassing, because it's a team show. There's loads of members of staff that appear on the show as well. I don't know what it is about me, but for some reason, they do seem to clock me and make a beeline for me. But I think it's an opportunity for me to talk about Woodgreen to people, to thank them for the support of the show. but I think the biggest impact really was when I went to Crufts last year, because I went to Crufts as my role of one of the roles that I do is training our animal carers on dog section, just about identifying different breeds and learning about different breed traits and stuff. So I was in complete work mode, and it didn't enter my head that stepping into somewhere full of obviously dog lovers, that there would be so much attention, and that, yeah, it was surreal, absolutely surreal.
It's
I'm just Sue.
overwhelming.
I'm just Sue.
I know, Sue. And I mean, I know that you and I have met sort of at various times throughout our sort of our dog careers, but I do remember the same thing at Crufts. And it's when the show was big over in the UK, and I was filming. We did 2 episodes at Crufts, and then I was presenting. I presented when it was at the BBC, and contributed presenter when it was on More 4 and then the Channel 4. But when I first went, I was not anticipating, nor did I really understand what it was like to be that center of attention. So much so that there were so many people around that I couldn't move. And it was bizarre. It was a bizarre feeling. And you know, there's people out there, and I'm sure you're the same. I know you're the same. There's people out there who want to be famous, right? There's people out there that like, I'm going to go on, I'm going to get my Instagram account, I'm going to be famous, and I want to be famous. And then when you're sort of thrust into the limelight, and then things start to happen like that, where people want to take their pictures with you, where people want to have your autograph, where people, you're like, I get it. You feel that mixture of like, oh gosh, a little imposter syndrome, a little bit embarrassing, a good little bit of, okay, this is reinforcement. I guess I'm doing something right. And also I'm an ambassador for not just the program I'm doing, but I'm an ambassador for dogs now.
Yeah. And you can never be off duty from that. Never off duty from that. Wherever I go, I'm always aware that somebody might recognize me, and I've got to be on my best behavior all the time.
Yes, you do. And you know what, Sue? It's even worse now because everybody's got a phone. So if you have a sense of humor failure, or if something, they're going to record it. So you have to be on your best behavior. But I think, Sue, I think the reason why people gravitate towards you is because you are genuine. 100%
I don't know how to be anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason, because I think when you show that you're genuine, people can trust you. And then when they see that you're kind, and that, you know, you're also like, you know, don't mess with people, and don't mess with dogs. Right.
Yeah.
And you're very much a champion, I'd say, for dog welfare. But at the same time, you have this approachability, this warmth. And I think that's what people gravitate towards.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice to hear. But like I say, I am just who I am. That's it. And that's the thing about the filming, isn't it? It's not someone there with a camera in your face, because it's all rigged cameras. You can absolutely forget they're there. And as soon as I go into matching mode and I'm speaking to the people, then I'm in work mode and I'm in chat mode and obviously it's so heavily edited. It doesn't take 3 seconds to match a dog. Those talks go on and on and on for us to form the picture of what they're looking for. But yeah, as soon as I go into work mode and people mode, I forget sometimes that the cameras, that I'm being recorded, you know.
Yeah. And it's easy, and then you can just be real. So I know that they're casting now, and there's a casting call for the new series. We're seeking people who are looking for a companion, or you guys are seeking for people who are looking for a companion for their existing dog to register their interest. So if people want to be on the show, they're looking to adopt another dog to join their existing dog, where do they go?
So they can go to the Channel 4, I'm going to have a look, Channel 4 Take Part page they've got, or they can email the doghouse at 5milefilms.co.uk.
Okay, thank you. Now, for people who are listening from other countries and in the United States, because this podcast is international, can you take me through the Doghouse show? What is a typical episode?
So a typical episode would involve people arriving and they are looking for a dog, and they sit down and we come down and we talk to them about why they want a dog, what they might be able to offer a dog, what time frame have they got available within each and every day for exercise and for grooming and for companionship and for training, and the type of lifestyle they lead, the perhaps accommodation that's not essential, but if they've got a garden, ideally it needs to be enclosed or nearby to open green spaces. So we do the whole vetting thing. We then go off upstairs and do some computer work to try and match, because all the dogs are on computer these days, aren't they? And then we know most of the dogs that are in the kennels and that are available anyway. And then we'll discuss different options and rule them in or rule them out, depending on what they're looking for. And then we would go back down to the people and say, right, we think we've got a match for you. Tell them a little bit about the dog and say, would you like to meet it? Invariably, they say yes. And they go off down to a meeting pen that has got the cameras in. It's the main bit that's a little bit different to the real world, if you like. So they wait in this nice little area, and then dog staff will bring the dog in and they get to spend some time alone, meeting that dog, playing with that dog, interacting with it. They would then take it for a walk, see how they all get on, and if they want to proceed, then we carry on the next steps with regards to whatever other health checks the dog needs, whether they need home checks, etc., other extended family members to meet, and then we arrange a book out and follow-up care once the dog's gone home. So yeah, sometimes it's successful and sometimes it isn't.
Just like it is in the quote real world.
In the real world, yeah.
I mean, okay, so now that sounds just, yeah, it's kind of what happens in adoptions anyway, all around the country and all around the world. But here's the thing. Whenever you watch this show, whenever I watch this show, and I remember even 2 Christmases ago, and I came over to England and I was with my daughter and we sat down. My mother's partner had recorded a whole load of the Doghouse so that I could watch it. And we sat there and we binged watched it. And we were puddles. We were crying. My daughter, who's, she's pretty stoic. She was in tears. My mother was in tears. I was in tears. You can't watch that show without some kind of emotion because it is so beautiful. And this show was conceived by the fabulous Nick Mirsky from 5 Mile Films, who is so brilliant. He also contacted me a few years ago to talk about another idea he had called the Dog Academy, which we did the first series. Now we filmed the second series, and that is airing very soon. I don't want to give the date away, but it's coming up and I'm very excited about it. But he had this idea where, and he saw it, this is an adoption show, but it's also like dating, in that we're trying to find these dogs the perfect families that they can be happy with. And I think it's so simple. It's so beautiful that the story, when you follow the stories of these families and follow the stories of these dogs, sometimes you never know whether it's going to work or not. You really hope it's going to work, but not everyone does. And you know what? That's not a failure. If it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. It wasn't the right match. But it is just so beautifully filmed. It's so beautifully done. And it really shows that human side and that dog side of emotional connection. And we as an audience emotionally connect to every single family that comes on and every single dog that you are rooting to find a home. Now, these dogs, through no fault of their own, end up at Woodgreen. Without the cameras there, without, what is a general day at Woodgreen? What does it look like?
Well, we've got around between 40 and 60 dogs in at any one time. Obviously, we've got the kennel set up. A lot of our we've got more than that many dogs in our care because a number of them are out in foster homes because some just can't cope in kennels, and that has to be. So toilet walks first thing because they've been in overnight. So toilet walks first thing. Then they get their breakfasts. Then obviously the cleaning's done. Then the main morning walking activity / training, depending on those that are on training programs, those that don't need one. Then quiet time over lunch break. Then the afternoons is going to be another activity, be that a walking activity, a training activity, a dog socializing, as in group walks, that kind of thing. Some of them might need confidence building with people, so they'll be taken into offices, so that's their afternoon activity. They'll then get fed a little bit later on, and then they are all toilet walked again before we go home at night. So, and all the time, as you will know, Victoria, from the experience that you've got in rescue, that every moment that you're with a dog is part of that assessment process. It isn't a case of you get a dog out of a kennel, you assess it and tick these boxes and say this is what this needs. Every interaction with a dog, everything it sees and does that you observe is part of that assessment process. And then when we've got a really good feel for who that dog is and what that dog needs, and combined with the history, if we've got some, if it's been a hand in or a stray, we would then write up a kind of rehoming package suggestion. This is what this dog needs from its next life, its next chapter. And then that's handed over to the rehoming team, and they're then given the task of starting the matching process. So yeah, it's a team effort, definitely.
Woodgreen is located near Cambridge.
Yep.
When people want to adopt, are they allowed to adopt online, and or at least apply online and then come to the shelter? What is your general? How do you do it?
Yeah, so vast majority of our dogs are. Once they're made available, they go onto the website, so people can look at the website, select a dog, fill in an application form for that dog, and then obviously we read through that, and then we would give them a telephone call and just have a chat over the phone just to say, is this really what you want, and talk to them a little bit. And if we get the green light, then we would book an appointment for them to visit site and come on, have a sit down face-to-face chat with them, and then if all goes well, then they can meet the dog at that time. And that can be the whole of the UK.
And you have other pets there too. It's not just dogs.
Absolutely, yes. It's dogs, cats, rabbits, guinea pigs, gerbils, hamsters, small pets as well, small furries there. And the adoption process is the same for all of them.
Gosh, so Woodgreen as well is celebrating quite an anniversary. It's 100 years since it was founded?
100 years, yeah. Set up in November 1924 because of the devastation that was left after the First World War, and people around the London area, hence Woodgreen. Obviously, London was heavily bombarded, and people had lost everything, and they couldn't cope with their animals. Some of the animals were injured, they were starving, they were abandoned, and so Woodgreen was set up at that point by Louisa Snow, and yeah, that's where it all started. So we've been going for 100 years.
And this episode, actually, the latest series, Series 7, features the 100th successful dog match on the doghouse. Oh my goodness, wow. Could you talk about the 100th dog story?
Oh, Buttercup. Oh gosh, she's little stray cockapoo, and you'll have seen these dogs too many times, Victoria. She was like in total shutdown. She was just given up on life, just terrified, absolutely terrified. And it was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. When we first picked her up, she was just stiff as a board, frozen solid with fear. And we just took it really slow and steady. She needed her coat sorting out. But first and foremost, we had to make sure that she felt comfortable enough to eat and be in the presence of her regular carers. And then bit by bit, we got her bathed and veterinary treated and stuff. And she just came out of her shell. So very slowly, but very gradually. And that's a thing when you work in rescue, that when you get a dog that is that terrified, when they come in and spend that first few days just hoping the whole world will go away. But that first time they take that first step towards you, or the first time you see that low little tail wag, the first time the veil starts to lift, and then just bit by bit she came out of herself and was just this sweetest little girl. And it was a very, very special story. And yeah, she went on to get rehomed, and they've called her Betsy now. Buttercup was too much of a mouthful, but yeah, it was such a lovely story that just happened to be number 100. So yeah.
That is
amazing.
incredible. It's incredible. And that's why, I love shows. And of course, I'm a little biased, but I love shows that help people and help animals. This isn't just a reality show that's out there where you've got a bunch of people in a house or a bunch of people on a beach or, or the Real Housewives of this and that. This is a show with heart. This is reality. I always recall It's Me or the Dog actuality because it's just really showing what happens. It's not fake. And of course it's edited, and I know that on our show, especially when we were filming over like 3 days, there'd be 56 hours of footage. You can't have people watch 56 hours of footage, and that 56 hours, when it was an hour show, had to be edited down with commercials to 42 minutes. So I mean, and then when it's a half-hour show, it's even less. So a lot of footage is taken. You can't hope to watch all of that, but the way it's edited still reflects what's going on. Nothing is made up. And that's why I honor the doghouse as well, because if things don't work out in a family, you're not going to say, oh, everything was great, when it's not.
No.
Can you say how important that was for you?
It was vital. And I've always, and you, I think I speak on behalf of any good dog professionals, your hair stands up on the back of your neck when you say, I want to work with dogs because I don't like people. Then just keep walking. You're not doing the dogs any favors. You have to like people. You have to be invested in people. You have to show the journey that the people are going on and the dogs go on in order for that matchmaking process to be so special. And it can be love at first sight, but love at first sight doesn't always last. And actually, it's friendship where love grows from. They form the strongest of bonds. And I think it's getting that across is so important, that the world isn't perfect. So, yeah, it is so important to show that journey.
I really love that. I really love what you just said. That you're right. I mean, you can fall madly in love with somebody just by looking at them, and then of course, then you got to live with them, which means you better be friends. Same with your dog. You can go, oh my gosh, that dog is so beautiful, but, when it gets down to the day-to-day nitty-gritty of living with a dog, having a dog in your home and teaching it how to navigate this strange domestic world that they live in, there can be challenges. And you have to have that friendship. You have to have that bond enough so that you can meet those challenges and that respect.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why years ago now it is just one of the reasons why we stopped public access to the kennels, where people could look round and say, "Oh, I like the look of that one. I like the look of that one," because there is so much more to living with a dog than liking what it looks like, and therefore that's why we do the matching now, based on their requirements. Now, of course, they can say, I don't want a massive dog, or I don't want a tiny dog, or I don't want a heavy shedding dog. We can take all of that into consideration, but it's more about what's underneath the fur that will make your relationship work, not by what they look like. I mean, I'd love the idea of Brad Pitt being a fantastic partner. However, if he wasn't, he'd be out the door.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what they look on the outside. George
No.
Clooney, for me, I mean, he could just be absolutely amazing. He's so beautiful on the outside.
Yeah.
But, when it gets down to the day-to-day, you got to know that there's something sort of substantial on the inside as well. Otherwise, things aren't going to work. I think George Clooney has it all. But there you go. I don't know about Brad Pitt. He's
cute, a dog lover. Brad Pitt is a dog lover.
Well, then that's good. That's good for our book. He needs to come to Crufts and he needs to come and see us.
Yes, definitely.
I know that, I will be at Crufts, everybody. So, yes, you'll be listening to this podcast just before Crufts, before we go to Crufts. So it is on, when is it?
6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th, yeah.
That's right, of March. And I'm Hall 1, stand 56. Where's Woodgreen stand? Do you know where it is?
I don't know. We've got one and I'm there on the Sunday.
Okay, good. Okay. So, look, we're going to take a quick break. And then after I come back, I want to talk about how you deal with kennel stress and what kind of enrichment plans you have. And I think that's really important for everybody, because there's a lot of people that work in rescue that listen to this podcast. So if you can give some insight into that, that would be great. Brilliant. All right, we'll be back after these messages. Are you a dog behavior geek like me? Join me for my absolute favorite weekend of the year, the 2025 Dog Behavior Conference. If you've attended before, you know how special the DBC is. And if you've never joined us for this amazing 3-day online event, it's truly a one-of-a-kind gathering of like-minded dog geeks, pet pros, trainers, and animal advocates from all over the world. Registration is now open at dogbehaviorconference.com. And the virtual live conference takes place on April the 4th to the 6th. Your registration gives you access to all 3 days of the conference online, as well as the ability to replay all of the presentations and live Q&As from the conference for up to 1 year, as much as you like. Our list of speakers for the DBC are truly amazing. Carmelita Uftaheidi, Amber Batson, Irit Bloom, Tom Candy, Sarah Fisher, Andrew Hale, Sindor Pangal, Joe Pay, Julia Robertson, Zazie Todd, Nikki Tudge, and of course, myself. So, reserve your spot today at dogbehaviorconference.com. That's dogbehaviorconference.com. I'll see you there. I am back with Sue Ketland from Woodgreen and from the amazing show, The Dog House. I want to give a shout out to Channel 4 because the Dog Academy is also on Channel 4. But Channel 4 is where I got my start. And they were the ones that took a chance on this old girl in 2005. I created It's Me or the Dog and worked with a wonderful production company called Shed Media. Well, it was called Ricochet Productions at that time. It still is, but it's part of Shed Media. And there was this, we've developed this funny little show called It's Me or the Dog. Channel 4 picked it up and it aired and it exploded. So over the years, we did 4 series on Channel 4, and then we did another 4 series on Animal Planet US, and then we've just done another 4 seasons on Discovery. But Channel 4 was where they took a chance on this. and it exploded. And so I want to give a shout out to them to say thank you. Thank you again for employing me again on a different show. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you to 5 Mile Films, who I have to say is a production company, and you understand this, that it can be really hard when you are juggling doing your work, doing the stuff that you do without cameras, and then having a whole production company, and then if in the case of It's Me or the Dog, and the Dog Academy, where there's some fixed rig on the Dog Academy, but most of it is following us around now, that it's hard to kind of keep both happy. But I think where 5 Mile Films makes it really much easier is that they care.
They do.
They know that they've got to deliver, but they care. And also Channel 4 does. Now, it doesn't mean to say that we don't have discussions sometimes. Because if there's something that they need and something that we say, we don't know if we can actually deliver it like that, then we talk about it. But they're open to talk about it.
Yeah, they're
treated. It's not like this, like TV used to be, of like we say and you do. They listen. And so I think it's the same with the Doghouse, but I definitely know it's the same with the Dog Academy.
Yeah, no, it is definitely. Lines of communication are always open, and they've never pushed us too far, not at all.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And you're not always going to see eye to eye, because at the end of the day, we have to focus not just on the job we do, and we have to keep the people happy, but our focus is on that being that doesn't really have a choice about what's happening to it, is the dog.
Yep.
So talking about dogs in kennels, how do you deal with kennel stress?
Oh, it's heartbreaking. The first thing is delivering the training for all of our staff and volunteers to make sure that they can identify kennel stress, because the ones that shout the loudest are easy to spot. So the ones that are bouncing the walls and shouting and stuff, then obviously they make it obvious. But it's the more subtle ones, it's the quiet ones, it's the reserved ones, it's the I'm not eating properly ones, it's the clocking that's why it's so important to track weight when they're in kennels as well, is the weight coming off, but they seem okay, but the weight's coming off, but they're eating plenty, but the weight's coming off. So there's so many different ways of identifying it, and stress looks different in different ages and different breeds as well. So first and foremost, kennel enrichment is something that we pride ourselves on. We can't escape from the fact that they are kennels, but we want to provide them with really thick, cushioned beds, raised beds, if at all possible. We want to provide them with breed appropriate toys. So your Labradors and your Golden Retrievers are going to have really big, soft toys that they can have in their mouths and wiggle at you. The Terriers, we want to have small, squeaky toys that they can shake and kill. It's that sort of thing. The Greyhound and Lurchers are always going to have the thickest padded bedding that you can find, so they can sprawl out. We've got underfloor heating, so obviously when you've got the German Shepherds and the Husky types in, then they find the spot that hasn't got the hot water running underneath them. So it's making sure the kennels are dressed for each individual breed type and age as well, appropriate. So that's important. The placement of different dogs in different kennels is important to consider as well. So if you have got a really lively, excitable yapper, you wouldn't put them in a kennel that overlooks the gate where every dog goes in and out when it's going on a walk, because that one will be shouting all day. And it's not just the one that's shouting all day. It's the one next to it and next to it that's upset by the one that's shouting. So managing that kind of thing is very important. We deliver enrichment feeding wherever possible. So snuffle mat, scatter feeding, stuffed Kongs, that sort of thing, so that meal times last that little bit longer and are more innately satisfying as well. And for those that have been, so that's kind of across the board for all of them, because what we want to do is prevent kennel stress increasing. I would say that there might be a number of dogs that go through the system and aren't negatively affected by it, but to some degree, I think most are. But for those that really are showing the signs, so the ones that are really fearful, withdrawn, shut down, they are taken. We've got most of our offices are all kitted out, they're dog safe, and all staff have basic training for being able to be in a room with a dog. So they get a break from the kennels and can go into offices during the day, and then they have their toilet walks and stuff like that. For the more sort of over the top excitable that are demonstrating their stress and excitement, then we would look at doing free work and scent work with them. We want to get their noses working, because if we can get their noses working, their brains are thinking of something else, and that nose work, they have to regulate their breathing, don't they? We know it's coming in through the nose, out through the mouth, as opposed to the really hard panting. So we will get scent games up and running and doing stuff like that. They will also get time out of kennels, and we do quite a bit now protective contact. So through the kennel bars, because they can get quite through the bars. So we have treats outside the kennel bars, and then whenever a staff or volunteer might go by, or if they've got a few minutes, they'll stand outside the kennel bars and they'll work on a hand touch through the bars. They might work on a paw through the bars. And what that has helped us is, it doesn't matter that dog's history and behaviour, it makes it safe for even a volunteer on the first day that's had protection contact training. They can go and have a go and entertain that dog because they're completely safe. So that's something that we do as well. And those that are really struggling, we've got a wonderful bank of volunteers that we just say, please, 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 this dog is not showing its true colours in kennels. Nobody is going to want to adopt it looking and behaving the way it is. Whereas if we can get it into a foster home and have photographs of it upside down on the sofa and playing beautifully in the garden, they see the completely different dog. So yeah, it's a full-time job. We have stress sheets that the staff have to fill in every day to monitor whether or not there is an increase or decrease. We're looking at it all of the time. It's very important to us.
And your residents, hopefully you get them in and out as soon as possible. But there is one resident that you had, and it's featured. One of the dogs featured in the latest series is a long-termer called Lady.
Oh, yes.
She's with you for over a year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about her.
Oh, God. So she was around 8 years old, and she was going a little bit frosty, and she was a leggy brindle staffy type.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, you straight away you say oh gosh, because
Yeah.
And then when you combine that with two behavioural issues that we find, I think most rescues find most challenging to place, is she was reactive on lead to other dogs, and she did not like being left home alone. So you have a dog which, on the face of it, people are walking her and having to avoid everybody and stay away from other dogs. And also you're under house arrest because you can't go anywhere. So it was really, really challenging to try and find her a home. We did a lot of work with her. She wasn't dangerous around other dogs. She could, if you did what we would call, as everybody I'm sure listening to this does, the whole round the corner meet, and she doesn't get herself all wound up, she can interact nicely, but she just zero patience. I've seen another dog, I have to get there straight away. And then she's a largish bull breed that's leaping around on the edge of a lead that everybody just goes, oh my God. So we really, really struggled, and we are eternally grateful to 5 Mile, because their reach was further than ours when they were putting out for contribs. So I mean, we advertised her on the various different radio stations. I have to say, 5 Mile and Lady did enable me to combine my two loves at the one time, because I am a massive football fan.
Ooh.
And I am a season ticket holder for my local Cambridge United, and I was able to take Lady out onto the pitch on a football match and say, does anyone want this dog?
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. And then we just kept plugging away and plugging away. 5 Mile were plugging away and plugging away. And then, wowzers. Oh, it all came good in the end.
That's a real success story.
Yeah,
and
proper
that just
team
shows
effort.
that you don't give up.
No.
You're not giving up on these animals. You're not saying, well, they're here for a certain amount of time and then that's it, out.
Absolutely not. There's no, if they're coping in kennels, and she'd do a bit of time in kennels and then a bit of time in, because she was there so long, in foster, a bit of time in kennels, a bit of time in foster. So she'd come for her holidays, if you like. But for as long as, a dog is coping with that arrangement, then, there would be no reason. She wasn't dangerous to people. She wasn't dangerous to dogs. She just was a complicated little girl to place.
Yeah, she was intense.
Yeah.
I call them that. She wears a lot of feelings. She feels a lot.
And also when she comes in for love, typical bull breed, where you just say, please don't do that. And she's all like wiggly, and then she'll come up, boom, and it's like, if you don't get out of the way quick enough. Whew,
it's the big headbutt. It's the staffy headbutt. And you have to get, I mean, I've had that happen to me, so many bully breeds, but also from a Mali as well, from Malinois as well.
Right,
they just want to be like, hi.
And they're so quick. So quick when they do it.
Before you know it. And then you're like, oh no, you got a split lip or something.
Yeah.
But and it's not, they're not biting you. They're not, it's just
it's not malice at all.
No, it's this exuberance. So yeah, I totally know, but I'm glad that you stuck with her and you give time. And I think that's where a trainer, a behaviorist is so key, that they have somebody like you on staff, where that I think it's crucial in every shelter to have somebody like you.
We've got a team. There's half a dozen of us that support both the dog section, the cat section, and the small. So we've got 2 cat behaviour and training specialists. We've got 1 smalls person, and then the rest of us are dogs, and we're there to support the dog team. And they can say, can you come and help me with Rover? Can you come and help me with Sammy? And it's great that we can support them in that way. So
the next series is casting now, and the whole process of casting, it's very similar. It was similar for It's Me or the Dog, for the Dog Academy, for the Dog House. It's where casting, literally, it's like casting for a film or casting for you. They want to have contributors that are authentic. This isn't just a
get on TV job. No.
Yeah, no, it's not. You have to want a dog. And you have to, for this next series coming up, it's better if you have an existing dog. And I'm a big, look, there's lots of dogs that can survive with families and thrive with families being an only dog. And some dogs actually are better being the only dog in families. But they're, just even in my experience, I feel like dogs like to have a companion, especially if they're quite social. And I think having another dog in the household that understands you, because, you're both dogs and you both have this language that you understand between each other that the silly 2-leggers don't understand at all, because we're so confusing. That is preferable in many circumstances. Not to say, again, I reiterate that an only dog can't thrive with a home full of wonderful human beings. But this series is going to be focusing a lot on adding a dog to an existing dog. Now, this makes things a little bit harder for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's one thing adopting a dog out to a home that doesn't have a dog, but it's quite another adopting
Yeah.
a dog out to a home with an existing dog. How is that? How do you go about that process?
Ah. And really, you could come at it from, well, we need to find out if the dogs are going to get on before the people even get involved. Because if the people fall in love and the dogs don't get on, it's not worth it at all. But anyway, so yes, we will we home to people that have got dogs now, and if they've got an existing dog, we go through all the initial vetting process. They'll meet the dog and say, yes, we want to continue, and we'll say, right, now it's down to your dog. So they will bring 99% of the time, they will bring their dog to our site and do the introductions. Very occasionally, because obviously we drill down about what their dog's like and whether their dog would cope with that. So sometimes we will arrange an off-site meet, because if they've got a bad experience of boarding kennels and they bring their dog to us, they can hear dogs barking in the different distance and think they're going to be dropped off at boarding kennels. We ain't going to see true behaviour. So that's something that we discuss. But we start off with, just to start with, it's parallel walking, and then we hope they might stop and sniff the same sniff. Then we'll hope that there might be a little bit of butt sniffing going on while we're carrying on. So we've got a 45-acre site that we can, lovely walks and stuff, so we can go around. Then we'll go into, if everything's going okay, we go into a relatively small enclosed area. And when I say small, my feet, I'm going to go work in feet. You might have to convert it.
No, I'm
probably 20 feet squared, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll start by dropping the leads. May drop one before the other, and we're looking at their interactions. And the reason we want that area to be relatively small is because should handbags get thrown, we need to be able to be there very quickly in order to separate it. We start in a smaller space. If that all goes well, we would then move over into a larger exercise area where they can have more room to perhaps run around and play if they want to. It's also fine if they don't play. Lots of people think, oh, they haven't played. It's not always top of every dog's agenda. Being relaxed and comfortable in each other's company is, ideally what we're looking for. Too much play actually could be a bad thing. We would then ask the owners to interact with both dogs to make sure there's no sort of resource guarding going on between the two dogs. We would then introduce treats and see how they are taking treats. There's water bowls everywhere, so it'd be great if we could see how they interact around a water bowl. If they're both thirsty, do they both dive in, or is one happy to wait for the other? And then we would introduce toys to see whether that changes the dynamics and stuff. So it's kind of a drawn out, you might say, process, but there's certain areas that we feel that we need to look at before we'll give the sign off. Oh, and then the last bit is we go into an indoor room that's got a sofa and an armchair in it, and set that up as well, just to see if, I know I'm not going to name any breeds. There might be a certain little dog that, comes and jumps up, gets on their person's lap, and then is like, yeah, he come in and he claims.
Oh, I wonder what that is.
Oh, I can't think. But we've all seen it. So we try to, I'm going to say test, but we try and look at all possible eventualities before we say, yeah, that's fine, and we're talking book out. But then if a dog goes home to a home where there's an existing dog, then we're on the phone the next day. How did last night go? How have things been this morning? How were they on their walk? That sort of thing. And the main thing is, anybody looks at anybody sideways, you've got any concern, give us a ring so that we can help you through this settling in process as early on as possible. Don't wait until they've had a massive fight. Get us in sooner rather than later so we can help smooth the waters.
Sue, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Guys, if you are looking to adopt a dog and you're in the UK, this is your chance, especially if you have an existing dog. If you are interested in appearing on the Doghouse, but most importantly, you're interested in getting another dog, then you can go to the Channel 4 Take Part page or email the Doghouse at 5 Mile Films. That's 5 spelt out, FIVE, 5milefilms.co.uk. And you can find your new next family member. It is so rewarding. When I had my Sadie, my chocolate Labrador, and I wanted to add a second dog, I wanted this dog that was going to fulfill a lot of things that I wanted to do with this dog. And a lot of the time we were going on morning shows and things like that. And, I wanted to have this really super, super sociable dog, going to get on beautifully with my Sadie. So we went to the shelter, and we didn't have Sadie with us because it wasn't meetup time. We were going to find this other dog first and just see. And gosh, I spied a Chihuahua in the corner. And she was curled up. It was actually a free shelter, so there was a lot of little dogs in the same place, in the same run. And there was this little dog in the corner, in the shelter, curled up on a corunda bed, not interacting with anybody else. She was wearing this little sweater, and I was like, gosh darn it. My daughter was with me. Never take your child to the shelter with you. Never do that. She was 6 years old. 6 years old at the time. And then we're like, oh, gosh, the Chihuahua in the corner. Well, we took her to the meet and greet room, and she was just a delight and really made a beeline for my daughter. And I thought, well, that's a tick, a check on that. And then once we decided, okay, this little beauty, she was only 6 months old, we have to see what she's going to be like with Sadie. And when we did the meet and greet, very similar way to what you do at Woodgreen, Sadie was just like, oh, you're a little pipsqueak. All right. And she sort of walked over and started sniffing something else. So there wasn't this great big, oh my gosh, you're going to be my best friend. But we knew it was going to work. Yeah. And so when we brought them home, I remember, it was just obviously Jasmine was doing little puppy kind of play with me, Sadie. And Sadie was a bit like, yeah, you're still a pipsqueak, so just sort of leave me alone. But I'll tolerate you being around. And then one day, Sadie is lying on her side and is playing with Jasmine in such a beautiful way, where she was allowing Jasmine to play with her, and she was opening her mouth, but in so gentle, and Jasmine was kind of sparring and jumping on her. And it was so beautiful when I noticed that, but it took a while for them to interact like that. So I think it's just a matter of giving these dogs time, and it can work, and it can be beautiful. And they lived a long life. I mean, we had Sadie for 11 years. We adopted her when she was 5. And then my Jasmine is 14 and a half. She's still around.
Wow.
Yeah, she is. Sadie passed away a couple of years ago, but it was a match. It was a beautiful match.
Yeah.
And so
I also think, I mean, I've gone from a multi-dog household. I had 5. I'm down to 1 now, but I always remember if I was going shopping and having to leave home alone, I just didn't feel as guilty if they'd got a mate to talk to while I was gone. Whereas when I leave Pixie on her own, I'm like, oh, I won't be long.
I know.
And she's fine, but I feel guilty.
She's like, would you just go? I'm all right, and I'm going to have a little nap. But I have this little, I have a soft, snuggly little beagle toy that she can nestle against as well. I have to. Whether she just looks at it and goes, is that a pillow? I don't know. But yeah, she's happy. Anyway, if you are interested, then, hey, apply, and you might be able to be on the Doghouse. And I have to say to the people here that are listening from the States, if you're like, I really want to watch that show, guess what? You can. If you have Max, you can see the Doghouse on Max. And I think it's 5 seasons, 5 series that are up there right now. So go ahead and watch. And I'm telling you, make sure that you are ready because you're going to go on an emotional roller coaster. But I want to say, Sue, congratulations, and congratulations to everybody. I know it's not just you. I mean, I've got a podcast with you, but it's the whole team at Woodgreen that are doing such an amazing job.
Yeah. Thank you. We are very proud.
And I want to say thank you to everybody that's in rescue, that volunteer, that are staff. You're doing such a great job to find homes for these amazing animals that through no fault of their own have landed in these places, and they are want to find their forever home. So please go and adopt. Thank you so much, Sue, for joining me.
Thank you for having me so much too. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I'm so glad that you listened to this podcast. I hope you are doing well. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you again on another podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to Victoria Stilwell's Positively podcast. For Victoria's online dog training courses, more information, and helpful dog training tips, visit Victoria's official website at positively.com. Get connected on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media as Victoria Stilwell, and follow her on Twitter at Victoria S. Learn to become a professional dog trainer with the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. And be sure to tune in next time as Victoria helps you and your dog live your best life together, positively.